Good evening and welcome to the Positional Sports Talk Show host, live streaming on Facebook Live, Twitch, and our Positional Sports Talk Show YouTube channel. We are a sports talk show made for the fans, from the perspective of fans, presented by lifelong sports fans. We will provide our opinions and positions on the hottest topics in sports this evening. We'd like to welcome you to another show. It is February 1st, the first day of Black History Month, and we got a show for you. I will let you know ahead of time that the show kind of flipped on its head with the major NFL news that broke late this afternoon. So we're going to get into it. My name is Big Reg. I'm joined by three of my main partners in crime, and then we have a special guest here in the studio with me. So let's start with the special guest. What's going on, G? Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here. Excited to talk with you all tonight.
Always good to see you.
Always.
We got my brother J3 in the building. What's going on, J3?
Hey man, glad to be here. Sorry I missed out last week, y'all, but I was with y'all in spirit. Trust and believe.
Oh, we know. We always know. Sense is in the building. What's going on, partner?
Not too much, Ken Carla. What's going on, fellas? Hey, Gianna. Nice to be here again to talk sports with y'all. Let's get it.
And last but definitely not least, my man, my brother, Big Ed. What's going on, partner?
Hey, man, I'm blessed to be here tonight and see all these happy faces, friendly faces, I should say, and happy. Always a treat to see Gianna. Hello. And then I think this topic is really gonna it's really hitting home that what we're going to get into tonight. So let's do this.
Let's do this. So we're going to do a real short, quick hits, get in and out, and then we're going to talk about two big topics: Major League Baseball Hall of Fame and that process. Then we got to get into the NFL news. And the NFL news, we thought we had a bombshell early in the day when something became officially official. But then this afternoon, we got a big bombshell. So let's get into it. Real quick, got to say congrats to our man, Draymond Green. Draymond Green signed an exclusive agreement to officially join the Turner Broadcasting team to be part of the Turner's NBA broadcast crew that does games on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you follow that in any way, you've known that he's been in and out as kind of like a special guest, but he's now a full-fledged member, getting a salary while he's still an active NBA player. And he says he's not retiring, doesn't plan to retire anytime soon, still chasing them rings with Golden State. But I mean, that's a power move to get paid millions to make sure he can't go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And I think he's eventually going to be the replacement of Charles Barkley, because Barkley has said he's going to retire when his contract is up. So shout out to Draymond Green. Would you say thank God?
The retirement we've all been waiting for. Yeah.
Yes.
For you Olympic sports fans, the Winter Olympics officially start this Friday, February 4th. They actually started some events today. So if you're into that, Beijing, China, it's already been a lot of controversy going on that. We really ain't touched on it, but if you like Olympics, check them out throughout multiple NBC platforms. You can find them. Last Saturday was a great day for Australia tennis.
Mm-hmm.
First, they had number one ranked in the world, Ash Barty, won the ladies singles title in straight sets. She didn't drop a set throughout the tournament. She looked like the most dominant lady in women's tennis right now. And if she plays anywhere close to the way she played for the Australian Open, she's going to be a problem for a few years. Becoming the first Australian to win that Open in 40-something years. So shout out to Ash Barty. And then that was followed by the men's doubles final, where the duo of Nick Kyrgios and Thanasi Kokkinakis won the men's double. So they went back-to-back Saturday to win the Australian Open title. So great to see them. And then Sunday followed up with one of the legends, Rafael Nadal, winning his 21st Australian Open, 21st Grand Slam, winning the Australian Open for the second time. So he's won the Grand Slam of tennis twice, winning at least 2 times in each Grand Slam. So he breaks the tie with Federer and Djokovic for the most Grand Slams in men's Grand Slam history. WNBA free agency officially starts today. We got to give the ladies a shout out. It started out with two of its biggest stars signing deals to stay with the current teams. Former MVP and two-time champion Breonna Stewart signs a one-year Supermax deal, and this tells you the difference in money. Their Supermax deal was $228,000 for a one-year deal for her to stay in Seattle. And this year's current MVP, Jonquel Jones, signed a two-year core player deal that's going to pay her a little over $200,000 over the next 2 years to stay with the Connecticut Suns. So, got to give them their props, but I mean, you can see a huge difference in money. Steph's Supermax is $50 million a year. They're getting $200,000. I understand revenue and all that, but they got to do better. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
It's terrible.
And last but not least, for you boxing fans, you got a couple of boxing cards on this weekend. Fox pay-per-view, Keith Thurman returns to the ring. He's going to fight Mario Barros. And on the co-main event, Leo Santa Cruz is going to fight Keenan Carbajal in Las Vegas. So if you're into fighting, should be some interesting matches. And our girl Clarissa Shields is going to defend her women's middleweight titles against Emma Kozin in Cardiff, Wales. So if you're into boxing, check them out.
Do you think Thurman still has it? Do you think Thurman still has it?
I was asked that question on that chat. I think Thurman, to be in boxing, to be in UFC, there's a certain hunger that you have that drives you to top to be a champion and want to stay a champion.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, once they win those belts and get that money, they're not the same. Not only did Thurman do that, Thurman actually fell in love. He got married. He had to take time off because of his shoulder injury. So he was out of the ring for almost 2 years. And then he came back because money was too good to decline. And he got beat by a 40-year-old Pacquiao.
Mm-hmm.
So you think he lied to Tiger?
Yeah, I think he's just, chasing them checks now because, I mean, first of all, in my opinion, he shouldn't be on the pay-per-view. But he's got a big enough name that they're hoping to get 500,000 to 1 million buys to make it worthwhile. But he going to get paid. So.
Wow.
Yeah, we shall see.
Yeah.
We shall see. All right, last week when we were on the air, the Major League Baseball announced its Hall of Fame class of 2022. And the class comprised one name, David Big Papi Ortiz, prominently known more for his time with the Boston Red Sox. And that brought up a whole lot of good conversations about, is this process just need to be totally revamped? Because they're using a process that they used back decades ago when primarily it made sense where you have the baseball writers picking people who go in the Hall of Fame because most people didn't have exposure to watching different games in different communities. You could primarily only watch the game in your community. Now with cable and Major League Baseball packages, you got people who can watch any game they want anywhere in the world on their phone. They don't even have to be at the TV. But now you've got these baseball writers have these personal grudges, in my opinion, who are selecting people for the Hall of Fame and, more importantly, kicking people out of the Hall of Fame. So that's my spiel. So what y'all think? Well, let's get into it.
I think it's a sham. I think the Hall of Fame, and not only the baseball Hall of Fame, but any Hall of Fame that we can consider or think about, but particularly baseball, I think it's a sham when you have baseball writers, and you were 100% accurate, Big Reg, when you said they have these personal grudges. The fact that Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens are not in the Hall of Fame, yet you have Ortiz and a few others I can name right off the top of my Pudge Rodriguez. You have these athletes or baseball players that are already in the Hall who have been linked to PEDs. You have hundreds of Hall of Famers in there that have been known to have uppers, to take uppers before games. a PED. It's
Oh,
you cannot.
absolutely.
Speed is a PED. You can't use Olympic athletes have any barbiturate in their system, they're banned.
Right.
I
They
just
were putting bowls in the clubhouse where they could just grab a handful.
holes in the clubhouse, but I just think it's a
Man.
sham when you cannot say for a fact who was using and who wasn't, and more of outrageous when it comes to this is the fact that Bud Selig is a Hall of Fame inductee, relatively recent, who is the commissioner of baseball, who was the commissioner during the alleged
Steroid edging.
period.
Right.
So, the boss who turned a blind eye to whatever was going on for the ratings and attendance is in the Hall of Fame, yet the people who popularized that era are not. It's a sham.
Yeah.
And it's really sad too, because I mean, Barry Bonds was a beast even before he, fell down that slope with the PEDs. The same with Roger Clemens, and I just think more so for Barry, it's really unfair because, and this, if I'm not mistaken, was that their last chance of making the Hall?
Yes, Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Roger Clemens, and Kurt Schilling were their last time to make it on the current players list. You get 10 years of eligibility, and then you have to go to what they call the Today's Game Committee, which is kind of like the Veteran Committee, which is a smaller committee that have some players that are in the Hall and writers and some other people that have to do that. But it's rough.
It's a shame. I'm sorry, John. Go ahead.
No, not at all. I mean, I don't think it passes the smell test. I mean, you're letting in David Ortiz, who I think we all suspect was certainly taking PEDs, and you're not letting in others who, and your claim is that, they're linked to the doping era, and it's just not, it doesn't make sense. So clearly it's just, I mean, as you said, there are a personal preference for some players over others.
Let's get back to what you mentioned, Big Reg, as far as agendas. Kurt Schilling won 3 world titles. Mm-hmm. Red Sox, Arizona Diamondbacks, Philadelphia Phillies.
Yep.
And on every team that he was on that won a championship, he was that man. So it's just a sham. He's never been linked to PDs. Some people don't like his politics. Some people don't like his surliness, or whatever you want to call it. His arrogance, whatever it is.
And he's getting killed for his failed business practices that he got a lot of investors who were in Major League Baseball and lost millions of dollars.
But that has nothing to do with what he did on the
what he did, right?
On the field.
Exactly.
Nope.
These quote unquote baseball purists, it's a shame they have a say into who and who doesn't get into the Hall of Fame. Like you said, that it's a shame.
It's a popularity contest. You already know.
Yeah, if the writers didn't like you early, you got to put up so monstrous numbers to force them to let you in, and then they're gonna make you wait. And that's been the same way around most of these Hall of Fames. The NFL is just the same. I mean, you got people like T.O. that they made wait 2 years, who should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer because they didn't like him. You've got other players in basketball who have to wait. But baseball is by far the worst. It's just ridiculous. Like you said, they've got physical proof that David Ortiz failed a PED test the first time the Major League Baseball ran the test that they told him they were going to run to see a sample of how many people were possibly doing PEDs. And his name was on that, but yet he gets in first ballot.
Well, that was a sample. They were just trying to get a baseline.
Just get a baseline.
But Poppy was the lovable guy. Boston is heavily influential throughout the baseball circles. And it is what it is. Like I said, I don't even consider baseball Hall of Fame's legitimate. I mean, like I said, you have several players in several sports that I don't think are Hall of Famers, but they're good guys, they're nice guys, so they're in there. So yeah, it's a sham. But I'm not look as long as Barry Bonds is not in the Baseball Hall of Fame, you can keep baseball.
I hate. And the fact is, it's a museum.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be all of these Hall of Fames are museums about the history of the game. That's part of the history. They have classified a whole era as the steroid era. So, what is holding you up from putting everybody who put up big numbers in that area in the museum?
Because if you want to be the moral police, let's go back to pre-Jackie Robinson, or even when he got there. Because if you want to talk about, this guy has to be a good person. Who was good when they were, spitting on these players, excluding
you mean last week.
An entire an entire population of players. I mean, it's a sham. I mean, who gives them the right to be the moral police of a museum, like you said, Big Red. So it's a shame. It's a shame.
So I think if they want to continue and make this more of a inclusive process, that they need to redo the whole thing. Get current players who are in the Hall of Fame to vote on the Hall of Fame. Maybe keep a percentage, kind of like all-star voting is. You have a percentage that the writers are. You have a percentage that actually current living Hall of Famers. And then maybe you have a percentage that are fans.
Yeah.
It's a fans museum.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Let them be the judge and jury.
Yeah.
So we will see. It's just a shame. We'll see what happens in 2023. But one of the best players to ever play the game doesn't look like he's going to get in unless this today's game committee, which used to be the senior committee, decides to put him in. On another note with Major League Baseball, we got to give a shout out to Shohei Ohtani, who becomes the first Asian athlete ever to don the cover of a major video game. He's going to be the cover person for Major League Baseball 2022, hitting the market soon, even though the baseball is in the lockout and doesn't look like that's going to get resolved anytime soon. All right, that's enough baseball. Let's stop talking. I'm ready to move on. Because we got to talk about this NFL. First, let's deal with the games, and then we can talk about the subjects and end the show with the subjects. Sunday, Rams 49ers. What you guys think? I'm going to let y'all start it because I can go on forever about that.
It's everything I thought it was going to be. I mean, it was, a nail, down to the wire, so to speak, not too much offense. And then, as the game started to, wane, then, the big plays started happening. And Matthew Stafford, in my opinion, did what I knew he was going to do. I mean, as many people try to malign Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, he, in my opinion, made some decent throws. Like the touchdown pass to Kittle, and he kind of kept the team in the game. Debo did his thing too, but I mean, it went the way that I thought it would, and I'm glad the Rams are hosting the Super Bowl, the second team to do that. Second team to do that for this season.
I've sat on this show many times and said that I really like Shanahan as a coach. And his coaching trees suggest that he does produce pretty decent to above average coaches.
Yeah.
But I think that his game plan against against the Rams in the second half did his team a disservice. When you have George Kittle, by the way, since that was not a good throw. If you watch that touchdown that Garoppolo threw to Kittle, He made an acrobatic catch, and it took all of 6'4" of him.
Mr. Killjoy.
If he's not there to use his height, then what is he there to do?
But
Right.
hold on. But I'm just saying it was not a great throw. It was a great catch. It was not a great throw. He caught the ball. He's credited with a touchdown throw. But that probably was his last touchdown throw as a 49er.
Agreed.
But anyway, getting back to the game, I just think Shanahan made some critical mistakes. Whereas Kittle was only targeted, I believe, once or twice during the entire second half. I think Deebo, I know for a fact, Deebo Samuels did not get the ball one target within the last 10 minutes of the game. That's rather throwing or his rushing attempts, none. So I just think, and then he put the game in Garoppolo's hands, which was a critical error.
Yeah, that was a problem.
The pass rush is what was giving you problems, but you were actually having success running the ball. So why would you put the game in Garoppolo's hands?
But they weren't having success in running the ball. I will have to correct you on that. The Rams held the 49ers to 50 yards rushing in that game.
Period.
But you have to attempt it. You have to try.
I give you that.
You have to try. And he completely did not try. But look, when I look at these championship games, I always look at who has the better quarterback. And in this game, this was kind of like an anomaly where you had two horrible quarterbacks.
Pretty much.
On one side,
you killing Stafford too? You killing everybody.
Stafford a horrible quarterback.
We all watched the game.
Oh, Stafford did try to throw that game away.
World-class receivers. So. He has probably the offensive MVP, not the MVP, but he probably has the offensive MVP that he's throwing to every game.
Cool.
And he has a rejuvenated OBJ who is nobody's number 2 receiver. Nobody. I'm saying is that with that in mind, even though he lost his tight end whatever. Yeah, he still tried to made every attempt to throw the game away. So
he hit the 49er DB right in the numbers.
Right.
He hit right in the numbers.
Boom! Right in it.
So to finish the thought, I always look at the quarterbacks and ask myself who has the best one. Now, technically, I will say Stafford is slightly better than Garoppolo. Not much, but slightly better, and he won the game.
And water's wet. We all know that Stafford is like the better quarterback. But, I mean, he still did what he had to do to win the game. And that is the most important thing at the end of the day. Stafford made that throw to
Cooper
Kupp. Yeah.
Kupp. But if the DB catches the interception, he never makes that throw to Kupp.
Right.
Because literally Kupp caught 2 passes, including a touchdown, right after the guy dropped the interception.
And that's why I think you can't blame Jimmy G, because the game could have gone either way. The interception at the end was off of a deflection. It was not his fault. Jimmy G was there. He was serviceable. He was there.
It was a tip ball. It was a tip ball. It wasn't like he actually threw it to him. It was a tip ball, and they were able to catch the ball. And
he was trying to get rid of it.
He was trying.
Jimmy G's a better looking Kirk Cousins.
He's much better
that's
looking.
The problem.
That's very important.
He's much better.
That is very important.
I'm sorry, Jamani, but yeah, Garoppolo is a much better quarterback than.
But that was the problem with him. He kept throwing the ball instead of taking a sack. He would just throw it up there like, "Here you go, take it when you want it."
Well, we'll talk about a quarterback who loved to do that in the next game.
But I disagree. Someone's saying that Stafford is not a horrible quarterback. His stats prove otherwise. So if you judge a quarterback on stats,
then Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a million quarterbacks that are good. Yeah. That have stats. Stafford has had stats his entire career and has been a perennial loser.
Right.
And you can't say
he was surrounded by though.
And you can't say this. You can't say a quarterback can't rise you up, can't bring you up, because of the fact that if you look at that kid in Cincinnati, I know he has receivers, but little else. He has nothing else to go along with those receivers, and yet look at where they are today. You can't judge. You can't.
Professor, we hear all your points. We see all your points there. We know you got a soft spot for the average quarterback. We understand. That's you like to give them some love. They put up some numbers and stats, but the dudes are average. And when it calls for them to carry the team and make big plays, they tend to throw it to the other team. And that's what Jimmy G did.
Well, yeah, Jimmy G. But you got to give Stafford credit, though, because he did what people always faulted him for, not being able to win a playoff game. And he
not only that, he was throwing the ball downfield, and that's what they needed.
Again, he's got 2 elite wide receivers,
he had
running
Calvin
game.
Johnson in Detroit.
I know, and he had the best year ever, and they couldn't stop anybody. I didn't say he can't throw the ball. And he's proven that crunch time he'll figure out a way to make some kind of play. He's changing his narrative, but he's still just an average quarterback to me.
I think before we move on to the next game, I think it's important to say it was nice to see a game with defense being played. That was what I enjoyed the most about it.
Shout out to Aaron Donald and Von Miller.
Yeah, Aaron Donald in the fourth quarter, y'all saw him on the sideline saying, "We will not allow this to happen in this house again." And they shut him down from there. So, shout out.
He was kind of quiet in the first half, though, buddy.
Yeah,
true.
I'm just saying.
And for all this dominance, they won by 3.
Right.
I feel you. Let's move on to the shocker. And I don't know if it's really shocker because I told y'all that if they let that man Joe Burrow have some time, he was going to cause some problems.
Jackpot Joe.
But
man, Kansas City.
Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals went on the road, beat the number 1 team the week before in the Tennessee Titans, go on the road, beat the number 2 team, Kansas City Chiefs. And Joe Burrow is that dude. He makes everybody on that team believe that they got a shot. Now, they still should have lost that game. And let's dig into why Kansas City blew that game. And I'm going to put it more on coaching than Mahomes. Mahomes played horribly in the second half, but the coaching stopped running the ball when they were averaging 5-6 yards or an attempt. And in the second half, Cincinnati made a great defensive switch. They went from rushing 4 to only rushing 2 or 3 and dropping 8 to 9. And when you get fronts like that, you must run the ball. And they barely ran the ball in the second half.
But remember this, Big Reg. Remember this. In addition to the coaching, because I believe it was ultimately coaching. I'm not going to put the game on Mahomes. Mahomes he's the Super Bowl champion and MVP. Not so much MVP, but he's a Super Bowl.
He ain't play like it.
He's a Super Bowl champion.
He ain't play like it.
But let's be clear. Andy Reid lost that game. Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy lost that game. Why? And you can't really fault them, but at the core, Kansas City they're going to throw the ball. Andy Reid does not. He wants to throw that rock, and he knows and believes that he has the best quarterback certainly since he's ever had, but the best quarterback arguably right now in the NFL. And he's seen him just last week and more times than just last week pull miracles out of his behind, so to speak. So he completely abandoned the run, which there was no reason to. Cincinnati hasn't been great against the run. In fact, Cincinnati's defense has been average all year. They were 10-7 for a reason. But it is what it is. But I'm not going to put this on Patrick Mahomes. I put this more on coaching because there was no need to quit running the game, particularly in a tight game. And you were up by, I think it was 18 at the time.
18 in the second quarter before Cincinnati scored late in the second quarter. And then the brain fart. Now, one thing I will put squarely on Mahomes, that brain fart he had at the end of the second quarter going into halftime when it was only 5 seconds left.
Kick a field goal.
The play was to throw a quick out, and if that's not open, you got to throw that ball away, dump it into the ground so you can kick the field goal. And he threw it. I understand he threw it to his man Cheetah, who you feel can beat anybody one-on-one. but he didn't beat that. And I think Mahomes was chasing those points that he missed at the end of the first half the rest of the game and tried to force it the rest of the game. And they never made the proper schematic adjustments to the defensive change when they had 8 and 9 people dropping into coverage trying to throw the ball into coverage.
And that exactly is why I'm putting it on Mahomes, because it was cockiness. He started to play like, oh, we got this game in the bag. Then Cincinnati started to creep up. And then that playground style of football that has gotten them that far ended up biting them in the butt.
You in the fourth quarter, 2 minutes left in the game, you go all the way down to the 4-yard line. Next 2 plays, you get negative yards because you didn't throw the ball away. You took sacks. Please explain to me, how does that happen?
Because Mahomes feels that he is the best, and that he's going to be able to defeat whatever the defense presents to him. Now, it didn't work in the Super Bowl against Tampa, because that defensive game plan in the second half with Cincinnati was eerily similar to the Tampa game, if you recall, because the Tampa wasn't blitzing. They were dropping everybody in coverage. Devin White and all them guys were dropping. Everybody was dropping back in coverage against Kansas City in the Super Bowl, and it was actually the blueprint. It was
but the coaches should have. You said they got to the 4-yard line. Run the ball.
Why they didn't run the ball? Exactly. Exactly. And then that's what I'm saying. And then Mahomes, he drops back. Instead of going forward, he's steadily taking negative yards. I'm like, come on, dude.
Come on.
Really?
But that's part of his game. That's just like Lamar Jackson. They're going to have negative plays trying to make plays. And that's part of their game. If you try to take that out of them, you're taking some of the magic of who they are. Because sometimes most of the time they get away and throw a touchdown. 2 of his first half touchdowns were plays where he scrambled out of trouble and scored touchdowns. So,
and what did Cincinnati do?
Both sides.
They dropped 8 people in the daggone end zone. So where is he scrambling to? You can't go because the defenders were throughout the whole end zone. Why take the negative yards?
That's why they should have been running the ball, which is a coaching error. What you got to say about it? Because I know you were frustrated about that game.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, one, it was difficult to watch. There was very little defense being played. There was no offensive line to speak of. So, I mean, I agree. I think that they should have been running the ball more. I think that it was a difficult dichotomy to watch Mahomes try to scramble and get things and not be successful at it, and wanting to see him throw the ball away when you have Joe Burrow on the other side who's doing it successfully. So I think that also possibly could have, you're just Patrick sitting on the sideline seeing Burrow do it successfully. He's gonna that's my thing. I'm gonna keep doing that too. And it didn't turn out well for them.
And they running backs was killing them. That's what I didn't understand. I mean, killing them.
Field day.
Yeah, it also brought up my disdain for the NFL overtime rules, which continues until something will change.
And I think at the end of the day, we have to admit something. It's not like Cincinnati hadn't just beaten Kansas City a couple weeks prior.
Yeah, and the same way, trailing, come back, and beat them.
A colossal collapse by Kansas City because they were, because they had to come back from 18 down, but Cincinnati has already proven that they can beat them, and they've already proven that they can beat them at Kansas City. So it's not like, some Sisters of the Poor came walking into Kansas City Arrowhead, and all of a sudden they pulled off this massive upset. It wasn't a massive upset. They just beat them a few weeks ago. So let's give the team credit who actually won instead of coming down on saying Mahomes who threw a game away and although I agree that it was a horrible coaching, several horrible coaching decisions on Kansas City's behalf, at the end of the day, Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins already tasted success against that same team in that same building.
And
so what's your prediction on the Super Bowl?
Well, I like Cincinnati. They got the better quarterback.
Who are you going to say, G?
Well, I just think that we forget about that. I mean, there were weeks where we were like, "What's going wrong with Kansas City?" Like, I don't like they did. There wasn't. They didn't have this like massive shift. There was something fundamentally wrong with the team. It's defense, but and so I don't necessarily think that they're deserving of getting to the Super Bowl this year. I think that
They can't hold a lead. I mean, you up 21-3, and you let the team come back and take it from you.
Let's just call it for what it. They took their foot off the gas.
It was a tale of two halves.
Yeah.
The first half, Mahomes. I was getting ready to text you guys and say, "This is scary for the NFL. If Mahomes continues to play like this, there's going to be no stopping him because he just took what the defense gave him, and they went straight down the field 4 times in a row, scored 3 straight touchdowns, and should have scored at least a field goal that 4th time. And then the second half, he reverted back to when he was having the struggles in the middle of the season, trying to force the ball into Cheetah's hands and doing the magic Mahomes stuff instead of just taking nice, easy shots, taking the dump off, and just moving the ball. So that's something he's going to have to fix for the future because I'm telling y'all, if y'all think Cincinnati's scary now, wait till they fix the offensive line because they still have the worst offensive line based on Pro Football Focus and a couple other people, either the worst or one of the 3 worst offensive lines in the NFL.
And they make it work still.
And in the Super Bowl. Their defense is legit. They don't have any superstars on their defense, but they play strong, and it's obvious that they can make adjustments at halftime to force your offense to do something different. If you don't make the proper adjustments, they cause you problems. They did the same thing to Tennessee that they did to Kansas City. Just different changes, but they forced their offense to do something totally different, and they could not change.
And don't sleep on Joe Mixon either. Joe Mixon was going to work.
Mixon, yeah.
Don't sleep on Joe Mixon.
Mixon's a beast.
They've all come into their own. And one last thing I'll say is that it's a spirit that Joe Burrow brings that everybody else is like getting behind. Like he has this swagger. Like I mean, y'all act surprised. Like yeah, we supposed to be here. Even like his expression when he got the Lamar Hunt trophy, like, oh, this is cute.
Okay. Yeah, this ain't the one I want. Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah,
he's setting a standard, and he told everybody when they made the playoffs, yeah, this isn't nothing special. This is the standard. We're supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And what he also did, he made a lot of coaches' jobs very, very volatile.
Yes.
Because
put a lot of young QBs on notice too.
He took a team before he got there that was 2-14.
Mm-hmm.
The year he got there, they won 4 games before he got injured, which was week 10, I believe. So they still had 6 games or 7 games to play, and he had already won 4. He'd already doubled them. Major knee reconstruction.
Yes.
Not a little knee injury. He tore an MCL and ACL and had other damage to it, and comes back the next year, wins the division, wins with 10 wins. They had their hiccups during the season, but at the end of the year, he figured it out. And once he got confidence and got them boys to believe it, he gonna be a problem. And all these owners gonna say, why can't we do that with our team? It only took them 2 years to turn around a 2-win team.
Exactly.
Well, really, it took them 25.
True that.
But Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, y'all on notice. All these
absolutely.
other young, y'all
No.
on notice.
Trey Lance.
No, Justin Herbert's
Trey
not.
Lance?
No. The quarterbacks. It's not Justin Herbert on notice. It's the coach on notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the coach. Yeah, the coach. You can't.
Josh
do anything
Allen,
with
the
them
beast.
quarterbacks. Yeah.
Because Josh Allen, the beast.
It's the coaches.
Yeah. Speaking of coaches,
Uh-oh.
let's get into the news. We will. The big news of the day that's supposed to be the big news today was Tom Brady officially announced his retirement this afternoon, and we was going to give Tom Brady some flowers. We may give him some flowers next week.
Salute.
But
Some $5.
there's some bombshells to happen after that. One thing I will have to say about Tom Brady a good dude.
Yeah, he is.
Because Tom Brady could have waited till Friday to announce this and picked up $15 million. He had a clause in his contract, his $20 million signing bonus when he signed his extension last year. He only took 5 up front, and the other 15 is due February 4th. So if he'd have just waited till Friday, Tampa Bay would owe him $15 million in the win against their cap. So he's a good dude. So congratulations on a great career, Tom, and we're going to talk about you next week. But the huge news, which goes into these coaching hires, is Brian Flores this afternoon, on the first day of Black History Month, filed a class action suit against the NFL
and the teams,
all their teams, and specifically the Miami Dolphins, the New York Giants, and the Denver Broncos.
Yay!
So why did this happen? Let's look at it. All of us, we've got 9 NFL head coaching vacancies. 4 of them have been filled, all 4 by white head coaches so far. The Raiders did the New England thing. So they hired Josh McDaniels as their new head coach and hired one of their executives of player personnel, David Ziegler, as their new GM. The Giants did the Buffalo thing. They hired GM Joe Schoen from the Bills, their assistant GM, and then Brian Dable, their offensive coordinator, to be their new head coach. So obviously there was tag teaming. You let me bring my boy in, I'll take the job.
Nepotism.
The Bears, who hired a black GM, Ryan Poles, he dipped into his bag of people that he knew. Indianapolis Colts defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus, who they worked together when they were both with the Colts. And lastly, the Denver Broncos, who were specifically mentioned in this new class action suit, hired Packers offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, who they hadn't even had an official second interview with, but they heard he was going to Jacksonville for his second interview and offered him the job to keep him from going to Jacksonville. So, fellas, we've been talking about this in the background for a couple of weeks, saying we're going to see how this plays out. 9 head coaching vacancies. How many of them were going to be filled? Because you got 32 teams and only 1 black head coach and only 1 other minority coach. Two others if you count Solid, the Jets. So 3 minority coaches out of 32 teams. But this is ridiculous. And did you hear the details that came out in the filing by Flores?
Something in the water.
And it's crazy. So what do y'all think of this lawsuit? And overall, I know Ed's got a lot on his mind about this NFL and these hiring practices that we've been talking about for years that just seem to be getting worse.
Ed, you want to go?
Well, I'll start with this. I have a lot to go through, but I'll just give you a little tidbit. I wasn't surprised. First of all, let's none of us on this panel right tonight is remotely surprised. In fact, as you mentioned, Big Reg, as a background, as you mentioned, we have been monitoring this, but we knew the result. We knew what this was. We knew the result, but we had hope. Every year we have hope, and that hope keeps diminishing. Every year it gets less and less and less, to the point where now we have, in a league of 70% black athletes who are doing the grunt work, we have 1 black head coach out of a 70% population. We also have, for purposes of representation, we also have 1 Latino Hispanic coach and a population of NFL players that are basically 0.5% of players are identify as Latino in the NFL. So the numbers, as far as that is concerned, aligns properly with the representation of Latino players in the NFL. However, the population, when you want to compare it to the black coaches of 70% of league, and you have 1 lone black head coach left standing, it's a travesty. But it just comes down to this. And I was thinking about this. Actually for a while now, and this was just like bam. But it comes down to the NFL simply does not like black head coaches or women. They just don't. No matter no matter what they do, no matter what splash hire or headlining hire that we see periodically, mostly I believe for PR purposes, it just comes down to the fact that minorities, whether it's a gender identifier or whether it's ethnicity, it just comes down to no women, no blacks allowed in executive leadership positions.
You know,
Can I just say what we tap dancing around? It's all about ownership.
of
We
course it is.
as other races do not own a team, and therefore we have no major say in who's getting selected for these positions.
Mhm.
Hit that bammer with the hammer. Tell them what is really going on. The ownership. Without the
Yeah.
ownership, we're not going to have a majority in the head coaching jobs. Period.
And I'll go even further to say it'll probably be impossible for us to even own a team. Like, how many people have attempted to try to purchase an NFL franchise and have been like denied?
And now-
Steph Curry.
Now it's getting worse because the values of the NFL teams have just skyrocketed again because of the new deals. And then with the advent of legalized gambling in the U.S., it's even going to get worse. The Denver Broncos just went on the market today, officially, for $4 billion. In order to be a majority owner, per the NFL guidelines, you have to be able to come up with 51% of that number.
Liquid.
And you got to have at least 30% liquid.
The travesty, if you look at this law, if you look at some of the details of this lawsuit, and there's a whole bunch of details to look into. But one of the things that struck me about this particular lawsuit was the fact that, and the puzzle all comes together because when Brian Flores got fired, the GM, the Dolphins GM came out front and said, "Oh, well, he just doesn't fit with our, our culture, and whatever." And
The angry black man.
yeah, so basically,
Belligerent.
and you were like,
combative.
what's behind this? Well, when this lawsuit came out, you saw what was behind it, because for an NFL owner to incentivize losing,
To lose $100,000
$100,000 per game, if you
per
on
game,
top of your salary,
to
if you lose. Okay, now we questioning the integrity of winning, the integrity of competition in sport. So that's a whole different rabbit hole that you do not want to go down. But we're getting ready to go down because I don't believe this lawsuit is settled. It's going to be settled out of court. I do not see it because there's no incentive. It's because if the whole purpose of this lawsuit, which Brian Flores clearly stated, was it's to shed light on a systemic racism that exists within the NFL. Again, we all knew it happened. Look how they treated Kaepernick. Like, oh my gosh, he's not good enough to get a job. But we have Mason Rudolph's, those type players getting jobs upon jobs.
Pulling dudes off the street.
Yeah. And not only was it the $100,000 to lose the games, he also stated that the owner got mad at him because they were forcing him to take a meeting with Deshaun Watson, and he told him he didn't want to deal with that situation based on what Deshaun Watson was going on. So they were going to get rid of Flores regardless because Flores wasn't being a good. You should be happy you got this job and do what you're supposed to do, and using the cover of having a black GM while the owner's fingertips are all on everything. And we all
Flores, man.
Yes, yeah. I agree, Sense.
For him, yeah, good for him because not only did he put out the suit, but he said, "Hell no, I'm going to win these games. I got my reputation on the line. Yeah, there ain't going to be no tanking here." And for them to have consecutive winning records on his resume, just speaks volumes. And to not bow down to the man.
But it's not like we haven't seen successful black NFL coaches get fired for no apparent reason before.
Caldwell.
Jim Carver.
Exactly. Exactly. So
Lovey Smith.
Exactly. So we've seen this. It's not, I mean, like I said,
Leslie Frazier.
that's why I wasn't surprised. And I'm going to admit, I'm so sick of the NFL as far as the administration part of the NFL. I love the game. I love the competition on the field. But as far as the administration and you know, it even comes in the question of how much influence, you know, people want to make fun of, and I know these are horrible examples, but they want to make fun of how Daniel Snyder and Jerry Jones have been meddlesome owners, but they're not alone. 90% of the owners are meddlesome, because if not, how are you taking these meetings on your yacht? You know, you're basically telling the coach, no, this is what I want. This is how I want it done.
Pajama parties.
Yeah, it's ugly. It's ugly. And then the piece that he put specifically in about the Denver Broncos, where he's claiming he had a meeting for a head coach interview. Flores is stating that they arrived, not the whole party, but the two main people at that time, John Elway, who was president of the team at that time, and his top aide arrived an hour late for the meeting and was visibly, as he says, disheveled and looked like they had had a long night before.
Wow.
So obviously, the people making the decision looked at this as this wasn't serious, because you don't show up for an interview for your head coach an hour late.
But but I don't think we even mentioned how this all came to light.
Yeah.
Like, I think people, so apparently Brian Flores got the text message from Belichick and that said, congratulations on the job, before he even got the interview for the job. And he was like, well, are you texting the right person? So basically all the stuff was already, all the ink was already dried. All the I's was already dotted, T's crossed, and what have you. And they had already decided on their coach. And again, I've said it before. You can hire whoever you want. If it's your business, you can hire whoever you want. But don't make a sham out of interviewing these people when you know they have no opportunity whatsoever to get the job. That's why this Rooney rule. That's why this Rooney rule should just be abolished altogether, because it's a sham. It's for naught. Yeah. You can't force somebody. You can't force somebody to hire you if it's their business. You cannot make someone hire you. Unfortunately, if they don't have it within them, you know, thinking it's a good business decision, or you know, for whatever reason, they're not. It's a private club. It's private. It's a private club. You're not going to force these guys with no rule to hire these individuals.
And it's a misnomer to think that the NFL league office can force these owners to do anything when the owners are the ones who are the bosses of the league office.
Right.
And that's what people got to realize. So
Roger Goodell.
The people, Roger Goodell and them answer to these 32 owners or 31 owners in the Green Bay Packers Executive Committee. Of those owners, you have one minority, a con of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And he gonna go with the flow because he happy to be included in the club.
Exactly.
And he's not dealt with what we've dealt with here in the United States. So if you're right, and this Brian Flores pushes this to actual trial, because he wrote in a very nice passage basically summarizing, saying he thinks he was born to coach. But he realizes this is bigger than coaching, coaching. And he understands that by him putting this lawsuit out there, that he's basically ending his career at possibilities of becoming an NFL head coach, possibly just an NFL coach in period. But he wants to make it better for people coming after him. And that's why he did it as a class action and just not him. Because if it was just him, then they can just keep him in court for years and years and years, make him spend a bunch of money, then eventually pay him to go away. Class action, if he can get some other black coaches to join on, especially the ex-black coaches that are no longer in the league, and tell their stories of what happened to them with these sham interviews, that's the last thing I think the NFL wants to get is discovery with that. What's your thoughts on that, Miss
Yeah.
Attorney?
I mean, I think that that's key. Like, I think that in order for this class to be successful, quite frankly, in order for it to be certified, there has to be enough people that, like, the class, he has to prove that the class exists. And so I hope that he's tapped into his networks and had these conversations with coaches, and, you know, that he has support lined up. I hope that immensely. But I think it's a very hard case. I think that, as Ed said, like, I think that there are so many different arguments that the coaching staffs and the owners can say, like, they just weren't the right fit for our organization. We chose not to hire them. So it's going to be really important that he shows that this is the story of so many, you know, Black coaches, ex-coaches, prospective coaches, and that there's a systemic problem there. But I think it's a tough road ahead.
Well, Gianna, can I ask you a question? Will it get easier the more people that sign on to this?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, assuming they have a consistent story, which I'm sure that they will. I think that there has to be a group of people that have been similarly injured. And so I think that, you know, if you can show that, then it will get easier.
And I think the end results, I don't think this is ever going to get to actual trial. I think this will get to maybe depositions and all that. And I think the NFL is going to say, no, we do not want people getting into emails from teams and all that and showing the bad, kind of like what happened to Washington with the cheerleader thing. Once they started they started digging into emails and all that, they're like, hold on, stop.
Ooh, a lot of skeletons came out that closet.
Yeah, we need to shut this down right now and shut it down.
Now, do you think, my sister brought up an interesting point. Do you think that there are enough brave Black coaches willing to risk their futures in order to speak out? Because we talked about this a few weeks ago where I was like, look, let's wash our hands of this NFL crap. Let's go back to the Black colleges. Let's go back to somewhere where we're appreciated. Now, again, the money's not the same. And I'm like, and I will say this. I say, look, I'm not trying to take anybody's bag out. You know, I'm not trying to ruin anybody's money, so to speak. But obviously, I don't think if you want to be a head coach, I don't think the NFL is the route to go. We've been proved. We've seen it.
And you can make a lot of money in college. So, I mean, I think that that's the question. I think that that's what we'll have to see over the next, you know, few weeks and the next months for sure. Of like who stands up and who is willing to go on the record and say, like, this is my experience. And you would think that the most likely who those people are going to be are the people who, you know, have been in the league and who were pushed out. They have less to lose. They're not going to go back in. So you hope that that's true. And hopefully he's had conversations with Colin Kaepernick and all of these other, like, I mean, I think that you can expand it. You can talk about players who've been pushed out and all of these different things. And so
players who wanted to become coaches and never got a job. And then he put into the lawsuit. He said, look, you've got people that have been given internships and basic entry-level jobs just because they're family members. And he mentioned Belichick and his sons. Nepotism. He mentioned the Shanahans and a few other families where their children just immediately got jobs. And it's like, you can look at these organizations and the head coaches got their children working in the front office, but you got qualified coaches who have been trying to toil and they can't get positions, or players who played in the league who want to become coaches and never get the opportunity. So if he can get the ball rolling, and I think it's going to be more of ex-players who wanted to become coaches, who went through these interviews and never got jobs, and former NFL coaches. I'm not sure how many current Black NFL assistant coaches are going to be brave enough to step out there and put their careers on the line. Because let's be real. Brian Flores said it.
His career is done.
My career is probably done.
Yeah.
And his
But for him
career
to
is
put
probably
himself,
done in like a Power 5 conference. I mean, I think you're right. I think he's going to have to go to an HBCU.
yeah.
So
But it's good to see him put himself out there and fall on this, sword for this cause. Because I mean, it's been something that's been kept under the rug for too long, in my opinion, and I'm glad to see
Long
him
overdue.
finally, pull
Long
the
overdue.
cover over and like expose it.
yeah, again, it's a shame that it had to come to that. Good head coach. I can see if he was just an average head coach.
Yeah, real good.
A good head. That man went 7-1 down the stretch to have a winning record after his owner had been meddling with the team the whole beginning of the first part of the season with
Yep.
the Deshaun Watson stuff. And he brought it out. I didn't want Watson. They kept putting this stuff out there, and it caused problems with the team. He also put it out there. I didn't want Tua. I told them to draft Herbert because Herbert fit what I wanted to do. But Tua's from the SEC South, Miami, from Alabama. Obviously, they were trying to pay him to lose to tank for Tua. So because he wouldn't play ball the way they wanted and not let him run his team that you made him the head coach of the way he wanted, yeah, it's terrible. So we're going to keep track. 5 more head coaching vacancies out there. And supposedly Flores was a finalist for 2 of them, New Orleans and the Texans. I'm sure that's going to be
He
And
was.
Leftwich with Jacksonville.
I would be
Leftwich.
shocked if Houston hires a black head coach. They already got rid of one for no reason. I would be shocked if New Orleans hires a head coach, a black head coach. Jacksonville's iffy. That's the wild card.
Well, if Jacksonville wanted to hire a black coach, it would have been done. They've been jerking around Leftwich because Leftwich told him, I will come. Leftwich told him, I'll take the job. I want the job, but I can't work under that GM because that GM doesn't know how to talk to people correctly. And I don't want to be in a position where I don't trust the guy who's above me. So they interviewed Arizona Cardinals director of player personnel supposedly for the GM job to come in with Leftwich, but that's been over a week. So if they wanted to pull that trigger, they could have pulled that trigger. Now they still interviewing other people. You got Minnesota trying to get Harbaugh out of Michigan.
Wow.
So
Wow.
we may be 1 for 9, if that.
Where do you see the one?
That's a good question now because
I say Jacksonville with Leftwich.
you got Jacksonville, Houston. Miami might be forced to sign a black coach to try to make it look good.
Houston.
Who would want to work there now?
So, it's only 32 of them jobs.
I mean,
We said that about Houston last year.
Yeah,
They found an old black man to take that job to make it look better.
And now they're looking for another coach.
when the one they had wasn't nothing wrong with him.
Nope. Not at all.
All right, so we will keep y'all informed of what's going on, and we definitely keeping tabs, and we gonna keep talking about this because it's getting ugly. As Ed said, it makes you kind of stop liking the NFL, not the product on the field, but the politics behind it, and it's a shame. All right, fellas, we ran a little long today, but it was an important topic that we had to get to. It is time for our final post. So let's start with our special guest, G. What you got for us?
Well, I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I'm very much so looking forward to the Olympics on Friday. I mean, I hope that the dichotomy of the Chinese kind of overseeing of the Olympics and the pandemic does not kind of overshine the hard work of these athletes for the past 4 years, and hopefully Chen will bring it home.
Good point. Good point. J3, you up?
Yeah, real quick, I want to give a special happy birthday to one of our loyal listeners. Carolyn Marshall's birthday is today. So I just want to
Hey.
say happy birthday, Carolyn.
Happy birthday.
She's always watching us, always supporting us, and I love her like another mother. And then on a sad note, one of my league bowlers passed away last night, Gary White. I want to say a special prayer to his family. We're here for you.
Man, sorry to hear that. And but happy birthday, Mama Marshall. We appreciate you. Sense, you up?
Well, in the spirit of Black History Month, I want to harken back to some good old days and spotlight a journeyman quarterback who took a lowly Washington team to the Super Bowl and became the first black quarterback to win the Super Bowl by the name of Doug Williams.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yes, sir. One of the glory days.
Absolutely. And Doug is currently an executive in the front office of the Washington football team. So, yeah, that was a great moment in time for people in this area.
No, I even was rooting for the Reds.
That's what they were then. That's what they were then.
I was even rooting for the Washington team back then.
That's
was
what
my
they
dad.
were then. Yes. You up, Ed?
Hey man, I just want everybody to stay safe. That's it. I'm looking forward. I'm definitely looking forward to the Super Bowl. I know we're going to get into it next week, but congratulations, Tom Brady on a phenomenal career. I don't like too many players. I can name like maybe 3 or 4 players I like that don't wear the black and gold. And I actively rooted for this dude, man, because he just played football the way I would want someone to play football, regardless of position. So congratulations on Tom on a great career. That's all I got.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out kind of on census view. In light of the beginning of Black History Month, first and foremost, we should celebrate Black excellence all year round, not just one month of the year. And Black people and their trials, tribulations, and more importantly, their efforts and commitment to building and growing this country has been vastly overlooked, underrepresented, and underappreciated. And we should make a point, especially as Black Americans, to make sure that we celebrate Black excellence every day, all day. When it's around Black love, Black businesses, when people are doing the right thing for the right way, support them and do what's best for them. And in that vein, got to shout out again my man Deion Sanders and his youngest son Shakur, who just signed a Gatorade deal.
Nice.
Name, image, and likeness, becoming the first HBCU athlete to have a Gatorade national deal. I mean,
that's what's up.
They are showing that if you build it, the money will come.
They will come.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
So, on that point, happy Black History Month start. Black excellence is each day, every day. And please support it when you see it. We'd like to thank you all for tuning in and listening. We appreciate your time and opportunity to share our positions on sports with you. We're here each and every Tuesday at 7 p.m. We've got a live show each and every week, 52 weeks out of the year. We are here in some form or fashion. If for some reason you can't catch us live, you can always catch our previous shows. You can look us up on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, Positions on Sports Talk Show. If you like podcasts, we upload all the shows to all your podcast platforms. If you want to hit us on Facebook, hit us on Twitter at Positions on SPO1. We'd love to hear from you. Please like and subscribe. It would greatly help us. And if we can do anything to make this show better, please let us know. Until next week, please stay safe. Be careful out there. And we'll see you next Tuesday, 7 p.m. sharp. Peace.
See you.